Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution for the detailed analysis of the current affairs which are published in the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper. Articles are listed on your screen and the time stamping along with the notes in PDF and Word format are given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day.
This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 1 and talks about the new all-in-one insurance policy that is going to be rolled out by IRDA or Insurance Regulation and Development Authority in India. Now, as per the context of this article, IRDA is devising a new policy which is a single policy product which is going to cover health, life, property and even the accidental risk, giving the Indian citizen overall protection, expedite the claims that they have with respect to their policy settlement by linking the death registries onto one single industry platform. Now see how this is going to happen. Most of the time what happens is that a person, when he or she dies, the insurance companies fail to meet their claims. The reason is that the online data available for the death does not matches with the requirement of the insurance companies. The data available with the people or with the government is not being taken as a trustworthy data by the insurance companies. Even if they have the right data, they are reluctant to provide an easy and very early claim settlement in the insurance. Take for example the life insurance. If a person has a life insurance of 1 crore and if that person unfortunately dies, then the claim should be settled as soon as possible. However, the insurance companies take advantage and try to delay the claim settlement as much as possible. But this is not the only thing. Lack of proper data on death also keep the settlement very cumbersome and very delayed. Now, this all-in-one insurance product will provide a one-stop solution to the insurance which are being used or which are being taken up by the Indian citizens for their protection and the financial security. When it comes to the relevance of this topic, it is relevant under GS paper 3 with the headings of inclusive growth. So insurance related question can be asked in order to promote the inclusive growth in India. Effects of liberalization, as we are seeing that there is a larger participation by the private insurance companies on the economy, and the changes in the industrial policy, because insurance as an industry is now booming in India. So this entire comprehensive discussion would cover the new proposals made by IRDA, details of India's insurance sector, the need for insurance in India. Why do people need insurance? Is this only because of the economic security or anything else? Issues and the challenges that are faced by the insurance sector in India, various insurance promotional schemes, let's say Aam Aadmi Bima Yojana or Fasal Bima Yojana. And lastly, we are going to look into the possible way forwards in this regard. After this entire discussion, you will be in a position to answer this question with an ease. Insurance sector could be a game changer in promoting the inclusive growth in India. However, the sector faces numerous challenges. Discuss. So you have to answer this question in about 250 words after this entire discussion. So let's begin the discussion on the proposals which are made by IRDA. So these are the following proposals that IRDA is likely to initiate in India. For that, legal measures are required, and for that matter, legislation from the parliament as well as the cooperation from the state government would be required. The first proposal is to create a Bima Vistar. Vistar means expansion or insurance expansion. This will be a single product which will provide life, health, accident and property coverage. See, what happens right now is that you have to buy separate health insurance, separate life insurance, separate accidental insurance, so on and so forth. So Bima Vistar by IRDA would provide one-stop solution to all the kind of insurance a person would require in his life. It will be a single and simple policy measure by IRDA. So once this product would be created by IRDA, companies, let's say Life Insurance Corporation of India or HDFC Life, can easily sell such kind of composite product in India. As of now, there is no legal backing, there is no legislation that provides a comprehensive insurance policy which covers everything. The next proposal is with respect to Bima Sugam or convenience, insurance convenience. It is a one-stop shop for the customers where all the insurers and the insurance distributors will be available. It is like a platform, it is like a website where a person can go, they can shop for n number of insurance products or even the composite products like Bima Vistar. It is going to link the digital death registries. As we have discussed, number of deaths which occurs in India should be registered, and this should be now digitally available to the insurance provider. And claims can be settled within hours or even days. So this is something that is one of the best possible result which can occur with respect to this proposal. So because it is going to reduce down the number of efforts, it is going to reduce down the number of days requires, hours requires in order to settle a policy. What happens as of now is that a person who looks for the insurance claims have to go through door to door and time and again, and even sometimes have to promote the collusive corruption. This proposal is going to permit the insurers or insurance company to sell the value-added services. For example, if you are going to look into joining the yoga class, the same yoga class can provide the health sector schemes or health insurance to you. So this is something which is beneficial. Or if you are buying a health insurance, you will get access to the yoga class in a value-added service. Let's say HDFC Life or ICICI or any other LIC kind of a company is providing you the health insurance. Along with the health insurance, you are getting, let's say for a premium or for a small amount, you are getting free access to particular yoga classes, swimming classes or whatever. Then comes the concept of Bima Vahak. Vahak means vehicle or carrier. So here insurance carrier will be promoted and here women role will be taken up. It will lead to a campaign to spur the insurance penetration in each Gram Sabha, roping in states to form the insurance committees and expand coverage across the district. So be it the villages, be it the urban centers. So all the three tiers, including the state, district and the villages within the state will be promoted, and of course at the national level IRDA is going to function. It will provide smaller micro and regional insurers, small companies, to reach different strata or levels of the society. As of now, we have national companies, we have international or MNCs functioning in the sector of insurance. Now the government will promote smaller companies, smaller MSMEs that can provide insurance to the local people. Now, the benefit of these proposals are manifold. First of all, it is a top-down approach for expanding the insurance penetration, which is very low in India. So as per the economic survey, as of now, there is 3.2% of the insurance penetration in India. It will go for promoting the bottoms-up approach, that is the requirement, the demand will come. The insurance demand will come from the village level, the Gram Sabha. The women in the village level will be the main catalyst in promoting the insurance across the country. It will provide meeting availability, affordability and accessibility of the insurance. So this is a kind of a keyword that you can use in your mains answer writing with AAA. It is going to increase the insurance sector employment generation up to 1.2 crore people. So this is something which was claimed by IRDA itself. It will provide an anti-poverty measure. Why? Because as we know that once a person or a life or a death occurs, once there is an accident, a person may lose one of the body part, limbs or anything else, that person goes unemployed. If a person is the sole bread earner in the family, it is going to keep the family back into the poverty. Providing insurance provides income security and also provides the level of anti-poverty measures. It will also increase the insurance penetration in India. So as we can see, as of now, insurance penetration is 3.2%, which we have discussed in the first point. So definitely, the more number of people will come into the insurance sector, more number of penetration will be there. So these are the following benefits. Let's now look into what is the insurance sector has to say as of now. So as per IRDA, India is the 9th largest insurance market in the world, US being the largest, followed by China. Now US and China have a large population. Then why not India with one of the highest population, most probably the highest in the near future, has the 9th position. because of many challenges that we are going to look very soon. So as per IRDA, India is the ninth largest market, which is going to reach at $222 billion by 2026, which is a very large number. India's insurance premium volume stands at $127 billion, which is likely to go to $222 billion in the next 5 years. As far as insurance density is concerned, so it has increased from $11 to $91 in 2021. In the last 20 years, that is almost 900% increase. Then comes the insurance penetration. So India's insurance penetration has consistently increased. It is around 3.2%. When we call for the share of the public and private sector, here you can easily see the public sector, the largest public sector insurer is the LIC or Life Insurance Corporation in terms of life insurance. Its share is 68.57%. It is compulsory for the government employees, so here the share automatically increases. The rest 31% comes from the private sector. When we talk about the non-life insurance, let's say health insurance, let's say accidental insurance, car insurance or any vehicle insurance or even the gold insurance, then comes which all falls under the non-life insurance sector. So from that perspective, the highest share comes from the private sector, followed by public sector, that is 49 and 36%. Stand-alone health insurers, mostly the outsiders or the MNCs, and specialized insurance, let's say vehicle insurance providers. So from both the perspective, we can see that the share of public sector is still very large in terms of the life insurance, and on the other hand, in non-life insurance, it is the private sector which shares the larger benefit. But the question is, why do we actually need insurance? So from the perspective of UPSC's examination, it is important for us to understand that why Indian people require insurance. The topmost requirement is that it will fulfill the inclusive growth argument, which says that penetration of insurance to the last mile, let's say the last village of India, will provide the extension of income security, income protection, anti-poverty measure, and a settled and a sustainable livelihood to a particular family, which is a prerequisite for the inclusive growth across the country, being a developing country like India. Apart from inclusive growth argument, these are the following measures that we should know about. So the first one is risk mitigation. Now, insurance helps in mitigating the financial impact of potential risk. What if a person loses a job? So it provides coverage against events like accident, illness, natural disaster, for instance, theft, liability claims, and even the property damages. So by transferring the risk to an insurance company, individuals, business, people can protect themselves from any financial losses. The second comes the financial security. So insurance products provide a sense of financial security by offering compensation or reimbursement of the covered losses. So whether you talk about health insurance, life insurance, property or liability or anything else, it ensures that the individuals and their family can maintain the financial well-being even in the face of unexpected events. Then comes the protection of assets. Insurance helps to protect valuable assets, let's say homes, vehicle, business, and even personal belongings like gold. It safeguards against damages, losses, fire, theft, vandalism, or even the natural disaster. So natural disaster is one of the reasons why people fall back into the poverty, which is against the inclusive growth. So from that perspective, yes, insurance provides the coverage and provide the recovery of the money that is lost. Then comes the point of healthcare expenses. Medical expenses can be substantial, even more than one person's savings. In terms of illness, surgeries, prolonged treatment, health insurance can be a game changer. It can cover all the claims of a person and protect the person falling from high financial stability to the low financial stability. Then comes the peace of mind. So insurance actually offers peace of mind to the people. It provides a sense of security and protection against the uncertain future. It allows the individual to focus on daily life knowing that they have financial support in the case of unexpected events. So if you compare a normal family, a middle class family in India and that of the US, a family in US will be more secured, will have more peace of mind because they are financially strong. They have their insurance in their hand. They know that if something goes wrong out of their hand, there is someone to take care of their family. Then comes the legal requirements. So certain insurance products are mandated by law. For example, if you buy a car, you require motor insurance, because without that you cannot drive on the road. So in order to meet the legal requirements, we need more insurance. So you will find that most of the time people have vehicle insurance, but they don't have life insurance or, for instance, the health insurance. So that is the reason why government is trying to bring a composite product in order to meet the demands of all these products. Then comes the business continuity. So businesses which faces serious risk, property damage, liability claims, lawsuits, business interruptions, or even employer related issues, let's say lockouts. So insurance can provide products that can secure their businesses. So it will help the companies prevent them falling into the debt trap. So in order to protect a company from falling or being a sick unit, especially the case of MSME, insurance can play a major role in promoting these small businesses and ultimately promoting the economy as a whole. Next is the income protection. So insurance products such as disability insurance and critical illness insurance, they provide the income protection in the event of individuals' inability to work due to disability or a critical illness. These policies offer financial support and they cover living expenses, medical bills and other obligations when someone cannot earn the income. So more or less you will find that the insurance does not only have a protecting life, but it provides psychological, social, economic and even the macro level stability to an individual, a family and even the economy as a whole. So for that matter, we require more coverage of insurance in India. Now the point is, what are the challenges that are being faced in the insurance sector in India? So the first is the trust deficit. So there's a general lack of trust among the Indian population towards the insurance companies. They think that there is a large number of frauds. They do not provide the insurance claims on time, but they take the premium always on time. So this lack of trust arises due to the concern of claim settlement, complex policy wording, complex sentences and perceived unfair practices. So building trust among customer is a crucial challenge for the insurance companies. Next comes the health insurance affordability. The rising cost of health insurance and the medical treatment poses a challenge for the health insurance segment. Many people find it challenging to afford health insurance premium, limiting the penetration and coverage of health insurance in the country. Then comes the underwriting and the risk assessment. In India, the lack of reliable and comprehensive data for the risk assessment, for example, the data with respect to the birth, death, income, security of a person, so on and so forth, always poses challenge for underwriting insurance policy. Well, this can also lead to inaccurate pricing of the policies. That is one of the reasons why the insurance policies in India is too expensive. Then comes the cyber security risk, which is a new one. So with increasing the digitalization of the insurance process, the sector actually faces a number of growing cyber security threats. The protection of customer data, secure online transactions are now critically the challenges that insurance companies need to address. Then comes the issue of fraud and misrepresentation. Insurance fraud, including false claims, misrepresentation of the information, is a significant concern in India. It leads to the financial loss for the insurance companies, impact the overall sustainability of the sector. So we need to have a robust system in that regard. Then comes the issue of distribution challenges. The insurance sector in India predominantly relies on agents. So you must have heard about LIC agent. But reaching the rural and the remote areas poses significant challenge. Why? Because there is inadequate infrastructure, there is no logistic support because of the logistical constraints. We have scarcity of skilled agents who can communicate well and persuade people to buy health policies or any other insurance policy. So expanding the insurance sector reach and improving distribution is the need of the hour. Then comes the limited insurance awareness. A significant challenge for this sector is that there is lack of awareness and understanding of the insurance products among the people. Many people in India, especially in the rural background and small cities and towns, have limited knowledge that do they require insurance, and many of them consider insurance to be more an investment measure rather than the protection of life. Then comes the low insurance penetration that we have already talked about. So insurance penetration, which actually refers to the percentage of insurance premium in relation to the GDP, is very, very low in India. It is almost 3 to 3.2% as per the economic survey of 23. So lack of awareness, understanding in the reasons that we have talked about has led to the low insurance penetration in India. Next comes the regulatory environment. So insurance sector in India is subjected to various regulation and the oversight by the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority. There are n number of conditions that are required to be fulfilled by a company in order to start a business in India. So bringing the small MSMEs into this business is a risky task, which Indian regulators have to look into. So when we talk about bringing women into this perspective and providing them the awareness program in order to increase the penetration of the insurance, we need to go for better and robust regulatory framework. And the last one is insufficient insurance product for certain segments of the society. The insurance sector needs to develop a tailored product for a specific segment, let's say for the rural population, for the farmer, for low income group, and even those people who have no source of income. What about the people who are sick and who are suffering from such kind of a disease which requires a prolonged treatment? Will that be covered? Will the hospitalization for let's say 2 years, 3 years will be covered? So all these kind of different segments should be covered with new products that should be brought up. These are some of the insurance programs that are being provided by the government. The detailed explanation of all these programs is being provided in the PDF, so you can read it through that program. It covers both life insurance as well as a non-life insurance, and in non-life insurance we also have insurance such as insurance from the agriculture sector. So we are talking about the entire insurance sector and not just the life sector. Now comes the real question: what should be the ideal way forward? So these are the following way forward that could be used by the students if a question with respect to the insurance sector arrives in the mains examination. So the first one is the combat fraud. We need to establish specialized anti-fraud units within insurance companies to detect and investigate fraudulent activities. We have to leverage technology, data analysis, artificial intelligence to identify the patterns of fraud and develop the early warning system. This will help the companies to reduce down their losses and will build more trust between the companies and the people. So collaborate with the law enforcement agencies to tackle the legal action against such kind of fraudster is need of the hour. Next comes the improve health insurance affordability. Health sector provider and the government should collaborate to provide cost-effective health insurance product. That is one of the reasons why IRDA has come up with such kind of policy. It will provide preventive healthcare measures to reduce the burden of the medicine expenses and promote well-being of the people. Then comes the promotion of collaboration. So we need to have more collaboration between insurance companies, regulators, industry associations, and even the customers themselves. This could be done through the regular dialogues, knowledge sharing platforms, promotional activities, even to the most remotest places in the country. Then comes the enhancing underwriting and the risk assessment. So we have to invest, both government and the private sector have to invest in the data analysis. And we have to leverage the emerging technologies, and all this will help in improving the process of underwriting. So underwriting will help these companies to reduce down their losses. Their collaboration with the industries, research institutions and government agencies will help in the reliable data and effective risk evaluation. Better risk assessment will definitely increase the insurance penetration and will increase the trust between the consumers and the insurance providers. Then comes the point of streamlining the regulatory environment. Here we have to continuously review and update the regulation to strike a balance between the consumer protection as well as fostering the innovation and the growth in the insurance sector. See, we can't say that all the insurance companies are wrong or all the customers are wrong. There should be a balance between the customer protection as well as the business growth. So we have to encourage the regulatory reforms that will promote efficiency, encourage new products development, and streamline the compliance process. Then we have to strengthen the cyber security measures in order to reduce the fraud. So government can conduct regular audits, even companies themselves can conduct regular audits and risk assessment. It will identify the vulnerabilities, identify certain peoples who are vulnerable or who are at default, and also make a list of those customers which have been fraudster in the past. We have to expand the distribution channel down to the villages. Everywhere people should have the access to the insurance in the manner they want, in the type they want. For this, online platforms, mobile applications, partnerships with the banks, or even the post offices which have a high reach to the remotest area can be leveraged. Technology, cheaper products, and easy accessible products should be taken in hand. We have to enhance the customer's trust in that regard. So, insurance companies should prioritize the transparency, fair practices, and prompt claim settlement. The claims should be made as soon as possible in order to provide the confidence among the customers. Even when a customer comes for the claim settlement, he or she should not be harassed. When a policy is being sold out, it should be transparent. All the documents, statement documents, all the policy measures should be spelled in the most easiest possible languages, and if possible, the local languages itself. Then comes the tailor product for specific segments that we have already discussed. And the last one is the increasing insurance awareness among the people. Until and unless people know about how to use the insurance, they are not going to use it at all. So we have to provide them that insurance is not just an investment measure, it is also a life security measure that will help them for a better livelihood, reduce down the poverty in future, provide long-term sustainability of the income, and will overall help in the family and the individual development. When the family develops, the society develops, and ultimately the nation develops. So from the entire discussion, now we come back to this particular question. Insurance sector is a game changer in promoting the inclusive growth. Now you have to identify those points and write down those points that how come insurance sector can provide the inclusive growth. Secondly, you have to identify numerous challenges that this sector is facing and try to write down some of the possible way forwards. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. Now, this discussion is based on the editorial which was published in the Hindu newspaper. The editorial is going to be simplified in this following discussion. The editorial is written by Arun Maria, one of the ex-members of the Planning Commission, who talks about that economics that looks at the lower half of the pyramid. So according to this writer, Arun Maria, Indian political parties and the economists need to refocus on the economy and must look into universal social and ecological well-being of the population. Now in this discussion, we are going to simplify this point, and after this simplification, you can easily use some of the pointers provided by Arun Maria in your mains answer writing. So the point is that he had talked about a new paradigm. Now what is this new paradigm? Please understand. According to this writer, India is looking into the economic expansion, but it should look into economic, social, and environmental sustainability. So the new paradigm, according to the writer, is that instead of just focusing on the economic expansion, that is the GDP model growth, India as of now, along with that, political parties especially should look into the economic, social, and environmental sustainability rather than just the one paradigm. Now the question arises that why do we need a new paradigm? What's wrong with just the economic expansion? Now, because of this skewed perspective of the economists and the political parties, there is a communal polarization which is going on. There is a caste cleavage which is going on, and the best representation here could be that reservation is taken to be a best solution for the economic growth and the social growth rather than the expansion of the inclusive growth. So political parties and the caste leaders have now used these important communal and the caste as a reason to increase the economic growth, to increase the social development, which is a wrong sign according to this writer. He has claimed that the skewed growth of India's GDP has kept 50% of the population out of the benefit. And this is what he has called the lower half of the pyramid, that is the lower 50% of India's population. Now this population is being suffering from the social backwardness, economic backwardness and environmental unsustainability. For example, a poor person resides in the slum. Now this poor person does not have the income security, so he is economically backward. This person most of the time belongs to the lower strata of the society, maybe a backward class, so he is socially backward. And the environment in which he is living, a slum area, he is not getting clean water, clean food, he does not have a clean air, he is residing in the most unsustainable and most shady kind of a habitation. So from that perspective, this is what 50% of India's population is suffering from, either from all the three dimensions, socio-economic and environmental, or one of them at least. So why we are saying that India's GDP growth is very high? If that economic growth cannot transform into providing the inclusive growth to all the people in the society, higher GDP expansion is of no use. Then comes the issue of climate change has increased the burden on the lower half of the population. For example, who is going to suffer the most if we are running out of water? Of course, the poor population. Who is going to suffer more if there is a damage in the agriculture? Of course, the poor farmer. So environmental damages, the climatic change has increased the burden on the poor population, where the government and the economists should now focus rather than just the economic numbers. And the last one, because of the above reason, there is a rising economic inequality. Even the Gini coefficient of India is much higher and it is being increasing despite the economic growth. So the trickle down effect that says that a high economic growth and its benefit is going to go down to the social strata of the society is not going to be materialized. So we gain the LPG or liberalization, privatization and the globalization. We started moving towards a new economic policy in 1991. We had this dream that this is going to trickle down the economic growth and will reduce down the poverty. No doubt. The Tendulkar Committee report and the Rangarajan Committee report clearly proves that yes, poverty ratio has reduced down in the economy. But this poverty ratio has not come up with the benefit on the social advantage and the environmental sustainability. It has come only on the perspective of the economic benefit. A rickshawala may have a mobile phone, but that does not prove that his children is going to study in the best school and is going to get and grow up in the clean environment. Now the point is that these are the following measures, solutions that the writer has highlighted. First, moving from quantitative, that is the GDP calculation and the claims over the higher GDP growth, to the qualitative measures, that whether we are being in a position to reduce down the Gini coefficient in India or not. Is the economic equality is being observed or not? Avoiding the monopolistic tendencies. So when certain resources comes in the hand of a particular company, a particular individual, a particular political party or a particular policy maker, that increases the monopolistic tendencies and it goes against the equitable distribution of the resources among the people. Political parties must adhere to the needs of the masses rather than their vote bank politics. There should be avoidance to the popular politics and the vote banks. For example, the issue of freebies. So providing freebies to the people just before the election is just a matter of getting the votes in order to be in the power, but it goes against the equitable distribution. What is the wrong with the people who have not voted? Are they the culprits? Why they should not get the real freebies or the real benefits of the economic growth? Why this kind of discrimination? Next is the meeting the changing requirement of the lower half of the population. Now, there were times in 1960s and 70s when providing the food to the poor people through the PDS shop was the top priority. In 1980s and 90s, population growth was the basic hurdle to the government, so they started reducing down the population measures through the better health services. But now the requirements have changed. Now the poor people are looking also for the digital expansion. For example, in the case of COVID-19, we saw that the people were looking for the digital access to internet because they wanted their children to study. So the requirements of the lower half of the population is now changing and the policy parameters should look into that matter as soon as possible. Next comes that the private sector cannot alone meet the demand of the entire population. This is for sure. So privatization of every resources is not going to be the solution. There are certain areas where government efforts, for example, health and education. So health and education requires more public participation rather than the private sector expansion. And the last one is that the trickle down functions. Yes, it is a proven method to reduce down the economic inequality, but this requires the popular politics supports rather than just the false claims. So according to this writer, this was the entire analysis that how economics should focus on the lower half of India's population. With this discussion placed, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on the editorial page and talks about the issue of ordinance making power at the governor level. The context says that Kerala governor took an exemption to the state government's move to reissue the ordinance instead of getting the executive orders ratified by the assembly. Previously, government has sent the governor 11 ordinances for the repromulgation. Now, repromulgation is the real issue, which means that reissuing of the ordinance instead of making a law on that. And it includes the controversial Kerala Lokayukt 1999 Amendment Ordinance, Kerala Cooperative Society Act, as well as other related amendment ordinances. Now, when we talk about the ordinances, it remains more controversial issues, especially with respect to the legislation both at center and the state. Now, ordinance is a special move. It is a special tool available to the executive head, that is governor and the president. So they can bring a separate ordinance in the form of law, and this need not to be ratified by the government. This ordinance is more like a temporary law which fills or which provides a relief for the temporary basis until and unless a new law is passed by the legislation. So ordinance is seen as a tool for the temporary measure and not as a tool to make it as a permanent method and replacing the legislation's power to legislate a law. Now, ordinance is completely a matter of the executive, so legislation does not participate in this. When a repromulgation of ordinance takes place one after the other, the power of the legislation is undermined. And legislation is something which enjoys the trust, the confidence of the people because they have been elected directly by the people at the center and at the state. So from the perspective of the UPSC syllabus, this topic is important under General Studies paper 2 with respect to governance, constitution and polity, where a separation of power between the various organs and the disputes, where dispute redressal mechanism is taken as a main issue. So dispute here lies between the executive and the legislation. So legislation has the power to make a law. Executive has just the power of making a temporary law or the ordinance. So this remains majorly an issue between both these areas or both these organs of the government. So today we are going to look into the basic constitutional provisions with respect to the ordinance, why state governments are looking for the ordinance routes regularly, what are the basic issues, important cases related to the ordinance making. Now in India, central and the state legislations are responsible for law making. Center and the state government are also responsible for the implementation of the law, while judiciary interprets these laws. However, there are several overlaps in the functioning of these three institutions or the organs of the government. For example, the president has certain legislative and judicial functions, while the legislation can delegate some of its function to the executive in the form of subordinate legislation. So, the ordinance making is one such provision which diffuses the line between legislation and the executive. They enable the government to take immediate legislative action in desperate time. For example, Article 123 or 123 of the Indian Constitution grants the President of India certain law-making power, that is the promulgation of the ordinances. But actually, the executive, both be it the center or the state, have misused this ordinance-making power. Nothing epitomizes the repromulgation of the ordinance better than the famous Bihar case, which was actually about the promulgation of 256 ordinances between the period of 1967 to 1981. This includes the 11 ordinances that were kept alive for more than 10 years.
just misusing the Ordinance Raj. So, in this perspective, we are going to look into what are the basic constitutional provisions. Article 123 and Article 213 confers the power to promulgate the ordinance on the President as well as the Governor respectively. Now, there are certain limitations. First, legislature is not in session. So, President or the Governor can only promulgate such ordinances when either house of the Parliament is not in session. However, they are not being dissolved. Then comes the requirement of immediate action. The President cannot promulgate an ordinance until and unless he is satisfied that there are certain circumstances that require the immediate action. Please understand this. Ordinance is a temporary measure and should be the last resort for the immediate requirement. And the third limitation is that parliamentary approval during that particular session. So ordinance can be approved, but Parliament required to approve this within 6 weeks of the reassembly that is coming into the session, or the ordinance will cease to operate. They will also cease to operate in the case of resolution which disapproves the ordinance passed by both the houses, and the same is applicable in the state level also. So if all these limitations are there, why the executive is frequently resorting to the ordinance route? Why can't they make laws? The first is that they are reluctant to face the legislation or the heated debate in their particular legislation and on the particular issues. There's a lack of majority in the parliament as well as in some of the states. So they think that if they bring a law on a particular topic which is a controversial topic, they might face the defeat of the government. And repeated and the willful disruption by the opposition party has also kept the ordinance route to be misused widely by the executives. Now, as you can see, these are the important constitutional provisions. This is a statement taken by the Constitution itself. Now, the point is, what are the issues? First, separation of power is in danger. Executive power to issue the ordinance goes against the philosophy of the separation of the power between the three organs. So, if executives start making laws when it is the duty of the legislation, how come we say that it is a separation of power? Executive enjoys the absolute power in that regard, which is not the case of a democracy like India. The second is that it bypasses the democratic requirement of argument and deliberation. Why legislation is created? Why the parliament was created? So that people representing different sections in the areas of a country can sit together, deliberate, can bring their arguments, deliberations, and can bring a heated debate on a particular topic so that executive cannot misuse their power. They are being represented. They are showing the trust enshrined by the people who have voted them into the power. If they are not being represented, if they are not being given the chance to ask the government about the topics or the issues, then how come we can say that the democracy is functioning perfectly? The third is that it has limited power to frame ordinance. Now, Constitution itself has given that repromulgation defeats the constitutional scheme because President and the Governor are not the absolute monarch in India. Then last one is it poses a threat to the sovereignty of the Parliament. If President and Governor can do everything, why do we need member of parliaments or the member of legislative assemblies? That is the reason why the person who are required to follow the law, that is the executive, who execute the law, are now becoming the lawmaker. However, lawmaker really are the legislators and not the executive. So what should be done? Before that, let's understand the important cases related to the ordinances. This is a very important thing and could be asked in the prelims as well. Under R.C. Cooper and Union of India 1970 case, Supreme Court held that President decision could be challenged on the ground the immediate action was not required, so repromulgation can be questioned in the court. Under A.K. Roy versus Union of India 1982, after 12 years, Supreme Court argued that President ordinance making power is not beyond the scope of judicial review. Hence, judicial review is applicable. In D.C. Bhardwaj versus State of Bihar 1987, when it was a height of repromulgation and the misuse of the ordinance, Supreme Court has clearly stated that the power of the executive to promulgate the ordinance is to be used in the exceptional circumstances and not as a substitute of the lawmaking power of the legislation. And the last one, Krishna Kumar Singh versus State of Bihar 2017. Again, the Supreme Court has said that failure to place the ordinance before the legislation constitute the abuse of power and the fraud on the constitution. So more or less, all the four cases prove that repromulgation of the ordinance should be avoided. Ordinance should be the last resort and should be based on the immediate action, and it should be taken under the exceptional circumstances and not anything else. So what should be the ideal way forward? Ideal way forward was stated in Nagaraj judgment by the Supreme Court, which says the power to issue ordinance is not an executive power, first of all, but it's the power of the executive to legislate on the ground provided only under Article 123 or 213. So any action taken by the executive which goes outside the purview of 123 or 213 should not be taken as a means or the ends. With this discussion in place, now we come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified. Stay tuned for more such updates. Thank you.